Yes, we can. Yeah.
Wonderful. Okay, so yeah, my name is Jack Wellington, and I am currently a final year medical student at Cardiff University. I'm currently applying for academic foundation posts in the UK, and I just would like to thank Adrian for letting me may speak today. Basically, this is going to be really informal. Literally, butt in as much as you want. Just ask me anything. I'm an open book. I really do not care. Just literally ask me anything you want. Interrupt me. It's fine. I don't mind. So what I'm going to be talking about today is basically sort of my personal journey of getting into research, because I know a lot of people are quite interested in how I did it and how I got my achievements, etc. But everyone's story is completely different. So do not take everything I talk about too like in dearly and in too much depth, because a lot of people have different stories of how they got into research, and sometimes it's very much potluck, sometimes it's endeavors. So I'm just going to talk about the general sort of how you get in and how I was taught to get in. So how to balance research in medical school, which is very, very important. How to cope with disappointment and rejection in research, which is just a common thing in life and you're going to have to get used to it. How to get into research and what I personally did, and then how to get the most out of your time at medical school. Okay, so a little bit about me. This photo was taken a while ago when I was in Sheffield doing a neurosurgical workshop, because that's what I want to be. And when I was like 10 stone heavier. But basically, this is updated now. I'm currently a 5th year medical student and at Cardiff University, which is in the UK, in Wales. I'm born and bred Welsh boy. I was very fortunate to do an intercalation, a master's intercalated in medical microbiology at the London School of Hygiene and Tropical Medicine. Whether people have heard of it or not, it's you either have or you haven't, but it's a world-renowned institution for infectious diseases, which was very much what I was destined to do. And then my research acumen and CV pretty much consists of a plethora of national, international conferences, which sort of revolved around neurosurgery, psychiatry, neurology, and also infectious diseases. I'm actually presenting in 2 weeks' time at an international conference in London. But those are sort of my fortes, what I'm really interested in. And then I've published in quite a few journals. So including the British Journal of Psychiatry, World Neurosurgery. I've also published in the Lancet, and just some other big profile journals. So just to talk about what happened with me, medicine for me was a bit of a rocky career at the beginning. So I went straight from school, so straight at the age of like 18, very naive, very bushy-browed. And I remember starting medical school, like in my first week, I pretty much was in cadaveric dissection, and straight out of college, I was very much, I don't know, life was very hectic. And then year 1 was a bit of a train wreck, because I didn't do much research whatsoever, actually, because I basically had I had 2 operations through my first year medicine, and I was on a whole load of painkillers, and life was very challenging. So, and I had to pay for my operations as well. So so yeah, it was hard going, and I somehow scraped through medicine in that year. So I didn't do much research at all. And then my second year is when I knew I wanted to intercalate externally. So Cardiff has got quite a rigorous way of allowing you to intercalate elsewhere compared to the university. So they only allow 10 people in a year, well, over 2 years, sorry, to intercalate elsewhere. So it was a very competitive process, but I was one of the ones they allowed to apply, so I did. And I knew I wanted to do infectious diseases, with my special interest being neuro. So I'm very much interested in tropical neuroinfectious diseases, neglected tropical diseases, etc. So during that time then, I applied in my 3rd year. And I also knew at the same time that I wanted to go for an academic foundation post, also known as the specialized foundation now, because I'm old. But I knew that I wanted to do this, and it's a competitive, rigorous process in the UK. And then in my 4th year, I intercalated, which was I'll talk about in a minute. And then, yeah, so again, this I need to have updated this, but I'm in year 5 now, so I'm final year. But a little bit of a slip happened in year 4, and I'll talk about it. So basically, first few years of medicine, literally, I just tried to survive medical school. I had 2 operations my first year. I was very much on tramadol. I was for pain, and yeah, I could, to be honest, it's all a blur. First year is a blur for me, and I don't know how I scraped past. But lo and behold, I'm here. So in my second year, I was very fortunate to have been funded to be awarded a fully funded summer research institute at the University Hospital Wales, which is the biggest hospital in Wales. And if anybody has any idea what this gram stain is and what bacteria it is, which I worked on, I'd be very, very, very impressed. So just out of curiosity, does anybody know what this is? Or could have a guess? You can unmute yourselves, I really don't mind. I guess. Oh, okay. Yeah, you're on the right lines. If I gave you a little clue, let's say, okay, let's say you find these in watering towers. No, it's not E. coli. Think more tropical or tropical-ish. It's not easy. It is. It's Legionella. Whoever said that is, I'm very impressed. This is Legionella pneumophila. It's got different serotypes, but basically I did my 8 weeks working on Legionella pneumophila, the pathogenic serotypes in hospital and using with public health. So that was my project, and I hold it dear to my heart because this is how I got into my intercalated. So year 3 medicine was a very stressful time. I pretty much tried to do, I was on every university society imaginable. I really tried to build up my CV because at this time I was contemplating surgery. And to be a surgeon in the UK, you need to be next level. You need a lot of stuff on your CV, especially for more commercial ones. So, and at the same time, I was applying for intercalation. So the master's application is a bit different to, say, intercalated bachelor's. So it was a lot more stressful, more references, more, personal statement stuff. And the London school is quite reputable. So, but if I can move on. But I was very fortunate to get the offer. So this is the London school. It's literally down the road from UCL in London, obviously given its name. And I think it's ranked very highly for public health. I think it's like third in the world. I think it beat Oxford and Cambridge for quite a few subjects in infectious diseases. But this is where I did my master's, and it was probably the most intense year of my life because COVID hit. And yeah, I'll talk about that in a minute. So I did a master's in medical microbiology, which is probably one of the harder degrees there. It's a 12-month intensive course. If anybody's interested in doing it, I can let you know all about it because trust me, it was a huge change from the medical degree. And the perks of the course was I gained invaluable research skills. I mean, I learned how to plate properly, gram stain, PCR, the whole shebang, which they don't teach you in medicine. And then disadvantages, it was very intense and it was very expensive. Because it's a private institution, the way they do tuition fees is a bit different. So it was very, 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 very intense. And I was very, lucky to have gone through it. And for some people who think about intercalating, it might be different. It might be different in your university, but don't intercalate for the sake of it because don't do another degree just for the sake of points. Because in the UK, they've gotten rid of the extra degree points anyway for foundation program. So a lot of people, which has caused havoc. But basically, it's only really worth it if you want to do competitive postgraduate programs. So, or if you're really interested in something, you've got the spare cash to do it. So don't integrate just for the sake of it. And then COVID-19 began. COVID-19 was absolutely ridiculous. I mean, it happened in the January of that year, of my integrated master's year. So I had to switch from being in person all the way into taught. So, sorry, all the way into online. And I mean, I was very fortunate to got my thesis in Oxford. So I was going to go to Oxford for my whole summer and do proper lab work, but no, that's changed completely. Still did in Oxford, but it's not the project I wanted to do. But I succeeded, missed out on some opportunities, but hey ho, that was the pandemic. But year 4, this was a bit of a nightmare for me because I started doing it, and in year 4 in Cardiff, we sit finals in year 4. So it was a stressful year as it is. But then I had to take an interruption for a year because I had big bowel surgery, and that needed, I needed to take time out. And this was quite defeating for me because obviously I had my life sort of planned, and I'm a very I'm a very compulsive person, like very obsessive, and I have to plan my life accordingly. But the harsh perks of life is that life does not go according to plan. So, however, I literally did not want to mope around on painkillers. I was like, no, I'm going to get what I need to succeed. So what did I do? So during my recovery, actually, and after, I made the best out of a difficult predicament. I began reading papers generally. So I used like the Lancet, my university account to access all these big journals, New England Journal, BMJ, etc. And I started reading up topically. Everything was about COVID, but I mean, the whole point was to familiarize yourselves with critical appraisal and then see if there's any niches in the market. So basically, everyone was pumping out articles with COVID, and a lot of them have actually been retracted now. But everyone was jumping on the bandwagon and publishing COVID because it was the easiest thing to publish. And then I was identifying niches and gaps in the literature, and then seeing whether I could publish those. So I was being quite strategic about it. I also started studying finals. I did a lot of past med. Past medicine is database of questions you do for finals, and it's Bible, to be honest. It is such a it's the Bible for me. And literally, I've learned medicine all from past med. I'm not gonna lie, everything from past med. And then I did a lot of research stuff. So in a space of 6 months, I pretty much published about 10 articles. So PubMed Index, I published it all. And everything, and the perks of COVID-19 was everything was online. So big conferences were doing everything online. So I submitted so every article I published or was going to publish, I also presented before I published. Hence why I killed 2 birds with 1 stone, got those extra points, and presented at quite big international conferences. I also became a founding member of the Walter E. Dandy Neurosurgery Society in the UK, which now has progressed to me being the co-director of a research institute, the Abdurrahman University of Neurosurgery Research Institute, and I also chaired a neurosurgical conference. So it just shows testament that even though you're in a difficult predicament and you feel like life is not going the way you want, there's always a silver lining. You're not trying to sound overly cliche, but you are your own person. You make best a difficult situation. Don't let the situation make best of you. So that's what I did. Even though it was very difficult, I worked hard. And this is currently where I am. So I passed finals. And I actually, this week, I just got my last educational points measure, which is the decile they give you to go towards your foundation program. And I just found out that I'm top decile. So I got 50 out of 50. And that was everything I did throughout medical school. So I was ecstatic. So it just shows that even though I was ill and I've had the 6 operations, during medical school, by the way, been on a ton of opiate painkillers, and also dealt with, past relationships and God knows what, and family and financial issues. You know, if I can go through it and get top decile and finish with over 30 publications and 20 international conferences, then trust me, people can. It's just, do not make the difficult situation you may think, which is, disrupting your life, you are the person who can get over that. And I know it sounds very cliche, but it's doable. Because trust me, I was a state and I got through it. So it is very much doable. So this is where I am currently. And then my job applications are in for the 20th of September. So I'm nervous, but hey ho. And I'm going for the Oxford Academic Foundation program, which is why I'm stressed. So that's my journey. That's my personal thing. If you have any questions at the end, just let me know. But a bit about how and what is research. So some people might be naive, but clinical research is how we develop new treatments and knowledge for better healthcare and better health and care, building the evidence for new approaches that are safe and effective. Basically, you are doing research for the betterment of patient care. You're not doing research just to get your name on PubMed or Web of Science or present something. Even though it's very nice to do so and get your name recognized, you're doing it for one reason, and that's for the betterment of patient care. So such examples, not limited to, include observational studies, where researchers may collect data through medical exams, etc., to learn about the effects of something over a period of time, or your highest, high-ranked, top-tier evidence-based medicine, which is your phase clinical trials, so drugs, etc., to find an intervention. Examples, so big things which stick into my mind when I think research are James Linn's scurvy trial in 1747. So just simply giving him vitamin C or oranges, to sailors. That was pretty much cured scurvy. Birth control, massive intervention, which has affected the many lives of a lot of people. Simvastatin, obviously. Child-Pugh score, which is used for chronic liver disease and cirrhosis. We actually stay away from the Child-Pugh score now. We use MELD, which is a bit different. Finasteride, which is, even though it's used for like male pattern baldness, it's also used for prostate cancer. So it's those sorts of, in my mind. So why is this important? So today's research is tomorrow's care. Again, that betterment for patient care. What you do on the bench in some little laboratory somewhere could be tomorrow's care or could influence such care. And clinical research may deem treatment options safe and effective, demonstrate whether treatments have adverse drug reaction side effects, show whether newer treatments are better than current standard treatments. Why do you think we audit? Why do you think we do quality improvement projects? Address issues in current standard medical guidelines via auditing and there we go, I just said it. So clinical research can help to prevent illnesses by testing a vaccine. COVID-19 is a testament. Detect or diagnose illnesses by testing scan or blood tests. You can think of, amniocentesis, chorionic villus sampling, those sort of things, which is now being outperformed by using NIPT. Treat illnesses by testing new medicinal device. Find out how best to help people with illness and help people control their illness and improve their quality of life, by even conservative stuff such as diet. The microbiota is such an important thing nowadays. So those sort of things, for example. And why, probably the reason why you've attended, why should you get in? So getting involved in research early is both beneficial for your clinical and academic career progression. Now, a lot of people will say to me, Jack, I don't need this. Jack, I don't need that. Why am I going for this? Why am I going for that? Like, for example, one person said, oh, I want to be a GP. I don't need any of this. And I'm saying to them, even though you don't think, just for the competitive, just getting into a training program, you might not need it. But think about it. It's going to, if you want to do anything, which is, university funded, get a fully funded project, or even get a name on a paper, the more you get your name out there in both the clinical, so clinical and, clinical academia or surgical academia, the more you're likely to get those opportunities. the more you're likely it's going to benefit your career. Even if you've done one little project which you don't think is amounted to anything, it's a step in the right direction. People, it's like saying going in for an interview. The first 5 seconds of seeing someone is the first impression. For me, a publication, a presentation, etc., that's the first 5 seconds for me. And it shows that they've got motivation and the vigor to do so. So it is very beneficial if you can just get your name on something, or it will in the future, it will surmount something. So AFPs or SFP now and clinical fellowships. So these are immersive academic programs whilst working. Some people even take years out. I'm thinking of doing it for an F3, like clinical fellowship. These are really, they are competitive jobs, and they do bring a whole host of different skills you can use for the rest of your career, and they help you get those papers you need. Boost your CV by presenting at conferences or getting published. I mean, that's self-explanatory. Conferences are a very, very good way to network as well. A lot of people I've met are through literally standing next to your poster or doing an oral presentation, and then they ask you questions afterwards, and then you make contacts. Postgraduate qualifications, your extra masters, your PG certs, etc., PhDs, which is what I want to do in the future. You need these things. You need research to really, to support those applications, because they will look at it and they will ask you. Get ahead of the competition for national job allocations. Now, this is really important for competitive specialties. Surgery is always going to be one of those. Surgery, certain jobs where there's not much posts. So sexual health is actually very competitive in the UK, purely because there's not many posts. They'll take one or two. Hence why you need more, they need to filter you easier from your competition. Hence why you need extra things. And because there's a bottleneck of trainees at the moment in the UK, where consultants are keeping on their posts, and there's no room for new consultants, there's going to be even more extra competition. So research is one of those outlets where they're going to assess you. You get invaluable skills and experiences you wouldn't get in medical school. I mean, for me, I'm not being funny, but my medical school has not given me any skills which usable skills or introductions into more competitive specialties and stuff. So it's been quite eye-opening to find out all this out all myself. And trust me, when I found out all myself, I pretty much did. So I don't come from doctors. I come from a very humble working class family. First person in my family to go to university and also do medicine. So I didn't know anyone. So I purely live by my philosophy: if you do not ask, you will not get. So that's literally, I was very cheeky and I just asked for it. And then influence tomorrow's doctors and healthcare professionals, influence the future medicine. Those things, it's naive to say you're going to do that as a student, but one famous example was Langerhans, who discovered beta cells of islets Langerhans for in the pancreas. He was like a student, I think, when he found this. So, right, how to get involved. So, easier said than done. I'm not gonna lecture you on how easy it is to get into research, because it's not. It took me quite a few years of asking and begging. But first things you can do: join University and National Society Research Committees. Even this research series, this getting into research series or med-ed initiative you're doing, that's a step in the right direction. Makes contacts. I mean, you've made one contact today, and that's me. And I know quite a few people. So message me afterwards if you're interested in getting into anything. I mean, again, that's the whole point of these things, is to get to know people. And I did a lot of this. So I joined university and national societies. I was on committees, and they do offer you projects first without telling anyone else. So it is good to, and you get friendly with the consultants. So it is a good way of doing it. Approach seniors, peers, experience of publishing research. Now, a lot of people will not ask their peers who have published a lot more than them to help. I don't really understand it. Some people, I can understand some people are quite snaky and will not help you whatsoever. And you do get that because there's a toxic competitiveness in medicine. You do get that, but people like me, I really, honestly, if you're helping me, like if you scratch my back, I'll scratch yours. It's a business principle. If you're going to do that, then fine, ask away. Seniors, very, very busy people, but you may get one nice one who gives you something. Consider intercalation or postgraduate qualifications. Even though I didn't get anything from my intercalated, I think I got one presentation from it. I didn't get published from one for my thesis. I think it gives you, it's a step in the right direction. It also makes you have a lot of like different research skills and stuff. So that's you know, doing an extra degree is one of those things. Apply for summer studentships and internships. These are competitive, really competitive. But if you get a fully funded summer internship at something, or like, you know, where it's funded by, say, a British society or a society of research, rather, then that also counts as a prize later on in your career, especially for the AFP. It might count as a prize, which is quite a good point to get if you cannot get merits or distinctions in medical school exams. So consider it. Contacts are key. I mean, yeah, well, I'll talk about contacts in a bit, but basically what you need to do right now, take anything from this lecture, is get on LinkedIn. Number one, make a LinkedIn account, because and the more connections you get, the more network. The more network you get, the more contacts, the more chance you get of publishing and presenting. So number one, get LinkedIn. And then use your SSCs, or student selected components, like dedicated time in medical school to do projects, or electives wisely. Electives are important because if you go for surgery, they'll expect you to do at least 4 weeks. You'll get top marks for like an elective section of the application. They'll expect you to have done 4 weeks in that said specialty. They are useful. Right, examples. So there are a couple of examples you can consider for publishing, and I'll talk very briefly through a couple. Original articles. These are your top tier research. Very difficult to get involved on. A lot of principal investigators won't let students onto them, especially if it's a high profile project. Very hard. But you can be cheeky with it. If there is an audit or a quality improvement project which is going to get published, that be classed as an original article in certain journals. So if your name's already pretty much, defeated half of your competition, basically, and if you're first author of that, that is 4 marks as part of your surgical portfolio for publications. That's first marks. Systematic reviews, very useful, very evidential. It's your top tier of Oxford, Centre of Evidence-Based Medicine, whatever, the model, but you need prior knowledge of how to do one. So this is where Prisma comes in, and there's a new Prisma now. And they are a pain. They take so long. They're a nightmare, and I find them the most boring things to do. Literally, it will take a while. So the easiest way to get them published is if you're in a big group where you split the workload, and then try and do it that way. But I've worked in teams, and to be honest, not people say they'll do the work, and sometimes they don't. So that's the other issue. Case reports. I actually swear by case reports because a couple of my articles have been case reports, and most of my conference presentations have been case reports. Very lucky to have gotten them, but they are elusive. They have to be rare, and they have to be a good addition to the literature. And to be honest, a little word of advice is most conferences allow case reports if you've got patient consent. So even if it's not that interesting, try, and you might get it accepted. So that's what I did, and they got, but they are a great addition to CV. They are quite difficult to publish them. Literature reviews, I wouldn't even bother. These editorials and commentaries, unless you're part of a big organization or you've got a supervisor who's reputable and knows the journals, etc., then they're never going to publish a student essay, a student review. Trust me, it's not going to happen unless it's outstanding, which most of the time it isn't. So very difficult. And then letters to the editor. This is where you guys come in if you've not published before. Probably the easiest to publish. These are like 400 words, whatever, little responses to articles, or or like it has to be a topical rapid response in a journal, etc., which is lacking on that subject. But it's a lot of rejection. It'd be like, oh, I'm not interested. Oh, like the editors would be like, I'm not interested, I'm not interested in this, blah, blah, blah. So they are probably the easiest ones to do. And if you really want to get published, then doing a letter to the editor weekly, even if it gets rejected or not, is probably the best way of learning how to get those skills. Right, application. So this is old now, but this is basically what the surgical matrix looks like for selection for core training. Say I've given an oral presentation, a national international medical meeting, etc. You'd get 4 marks. It has to be 1. So literally, and if you really want to help each other, get in a group and whatever project they're working on, just put their name, or like if they've helped a bit, put their name on it, and you can get the marks. So a lot of people do that in the UK and it works. So, and this is for publications. It has changed, but I am first author, joint author of 2 or more PubMed research, whatever. So you get the full 7. So how to get involved. Right. If you've not done it already, make a LinkedIn account. Number 1, LinkedIn is your best friend. Don't pay for the full subscription, whatever, just pay for the free account and start connecting with people you know. Start resharing things, start commenting, start looking at what other people have done. And a lot of opportunities are published on LinkedIn. It's a professional social media network, so use it to your advantage and start outreaching professors and surgeons and God knows what. You may get a response. If you don't ask, you don't get it. So do not overdo it though. Literally, when I was in 3rd year, I overdid it. I didn't have time to even sleep properly, to be honest. I just overdid it with everything. And to be honest, in my 4th year, just finished now, I didn't have much time either because I was collating all my final stuff. But I mean, I did it. I published a good 15 articles or something. So it does happen. But do not overdo it. Your medical school studies come first, because I don't know how it works, but for you guys, but for us, your educational point measure is what is half of your foundation application. So do not neglect your studies to go and do more research. It's just a waste of time. If you haven't passed your finals, then how are you even going to use it? So, as I said, have a balance. Do not prioritize research of your fundamental clinical competencies. You could be the most intelligent doctor who has published 50 articles on PubMed, but still doesn't know how to cannulate. There is a difference, you know? You need to keep up with your doctor position. For me, a doctor is 3 things: a clinician, a scientist, and a scholar. If you lack on one of those 3, then you're not really a doctor anymore. So if you're just publishing, you're just a scientist, you're not actually a doctor anymore. So don't neglect those clinical competencies. Conduct research on what you are passionate about. Don't just conduct research on something you've just been given and be like, oh, I'm not bothered. I'm gonna like half-ass attempts on it. That's not enjoyable for you, and you'll despise it. You want to do it on something you're interested in. But at the same time, I understand there is competition and you want to get your name on something, but it'll take 10 times as long if you hate the project rather than, enjoy it. And then do not do research just for the PubMed IDs. It's one of my pet hates. Just do research because one is going to get you research. That's what the whole point of doing it. Don't just fantasize about a PubMed ID, because in the long run, it's not worth it, honestly. Right, do's and don'ts in email etiquette. Emailing is probably your best friend with LinkedIn, but this is how I do an email. So make sure to be respectful and formal, outline who you are, what you want to get involved in, and why. That is literally number 1. So you identify a professor you're interested in with, who you are, what you want, and why. That is literally it. But for your why, do not go, I just want to be published. Don't say that. Try and make it a bit nicer. Make sure to attach an update CV. Every email I send for an opportunity, my CV is there. Number 1, it's always there. Even if they don't read it, gives them a nice little glance. Make sure the email is individualized. Don't batch email, because people talk, and if you've sent the same email to everyone in the same department, they're going to ignore you and blacklist you. Right, do not over email. So for me, the rule of thumb is 2 weeks. If a professor hasn't responded to you in 2 weeks, then you can chase them up. Other than that, move on. If they are not responding to you over 2 weeks or say a month, just move on. I wouldn't even bother. Do not send emails to loads of potential and batches. I already talked about. And basically, you need to research the researcher in question. If you have no background and they invite you for a coffee to talk about projects and you don't know what they do, then you're screwed, because they'll ask you, what publication have you read of mine, etc. And if you don't know, that's just an automatic, oh, I don't want to work with you. Do's and don'ts in CVs. So outline your relevant details. Do not waffle. Number one, if you start waffling about, oh, I used to volunteer and this and that and blah, 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 it's not relevant. Nobody cares. So just make sure it's very, very thing. So for me, I always do academic achievements, prizes, etc., publications, presentations, extracurricular. That is it. Make sure to list your past, present, and future research endeavors. At the end of my CV, I'll always talk about what I hope to achieve or ascertain later on in life and what I've done. Just very short, like say, okay, I'm very interested in looking at this, looking at that, I'd like to do this. It's just a nice little addition. Make sure to include all your citations, presentations, and prizes, even if shortlisted. If you've got a prize which didn't win first, but it was shortlisted for a meeting, whatever, include that in your prizes. Do not waffle. Do not make it too long. I once read a CV which was 22 pages long, and trust me, I just ignored it. And do not lie. The amount of people who lie is staggering. I mean, there was once this person who I was at a meeting, a conference with, and basically they did a presentation and they lied about their stats. Basically, they lied saying they had so many publications, so many presentations, and they didn't, because I knew them. So just do not lie. Right, rejection. So you are making the first step in listening to this, but it's very naive to think you're just going to get published, because trust me, you don't. Most of the time, you really have to settle for second best, because you're not going to get into Lancet, you're not going to get into the BMJ, you're not going to get into New England. There's no way, unless you know someone, then it's a different ballgame. But it's all about rejection. Once a team of, like someone I was working with, a team of us, we submitted a case report 6 times to 6 different journals, and it finally got accepted. So I literally, as soon as I get the email going, oh, it's rejected, I'm like, okay, let's submit somewhere else. Do not dwell on it. So all individuals pursuing clinical surgical academia should grasp that rejection is a normal component of the process. Personally, I've been rejected from many conferences, committee positions, prizes, and journals. I have. The amount of conferences, the amount of positions, I've been rejected more than what I've been accepted. So that's just part of life. So, but do not give up. Be resilient. You remember going into medicine, medical school, oh, I'm resilient for this, I'm resilient for that. This is where you're actually going to be using that ability. Do not let one journal's position influence publishing bias. So don't think, okay, because one journal's like, nah, don't like it, hate it, and the reviewer's comments are awful, don't make you think, oh, it's not good enough, therefore I won't publish it. No, go for it. And take the comments on board and revise. Personal development is key for everything. Who to contact? So the internet and social media are powerful assets. A lot of projects I've got and papers was through Facebook. Literally, there's so many different group chats for surgeons and psychiatrists and everyone. I literally went on Facebook, scouted, did a post saying, look, I'm an eager medical student, I want this, that, and the other, I'll help with whatever. And the amount of requests I got from doctors all over the world, just you have to be careful though, because there's a lot of people you cannot trust. So just research the person who's contacting you. But that's what I did, and it has worked me. And a lot of people I've done research with is global as well. So it shows that you're globally minded, not just based in one country. So that's also a really good asset. So if you're waiting too long for a response, move on. 2-3 weeks is my gold numbers. Just move on. Doctors in high profile academics are very busy, so they might not respond to you straight away, but just don't cold email everyone. Don't do that. Be innovative. If you've got an idea yourself, if you've got a research project yourself, do it. Just because you're a student means nothing. Most people in the past who won Nobel Prizes, they were a student at one time. Do it. If you think you've got a project which you've got experience on, say a systematic review, you know how to do one, and you know it's a niche in the market, you don't need a supervisor. Just do it. Just do it. If you know how to do a Prisma, do it. And that's what I did. I did with a group of students. Get in touch with national student research bodies. Examples. So this is British examples, but Royal Society of Medicine, Walter Reed Andy, which is us, Star Surge, which is a surgical thing, and then NSAMR, which is a research society in the UK. And then have things in common with your peers. Work together. Like you could make a group of yourselves and literally bash out so many different letters to the editors weekly or whatever if you have time, and you will get those points. So if again, it's how much you're going to put, you want it to get those extra things. And that is me. I hope that was very useful. You can message me on LinkedIn, email me, that's my email, but don't share it out, obviously. But yeah, I'm very open for questions, and thank you very, very much.
Hi, Jack. Thank you so much. It's so
No
great.
worries.
The best research talk we have.
I highly doubt that.
No, it really is. You have no idea. It's inspiring. It has a lot of information on how to get into research and also your own journey as well.
Yeah, thank you very, very much.
We don't actually have any questions at the moment.
So I've got quite a few direct ones.
Yeah.
I can, if everyone's happy with it, I can go through them.
Yeah.
Is that all right?
Yeah, definitely. Yeah.
So let's start with this. Right. So are there opportunities to get involved in any online long distance research projects? Absolutely. Most of the ones I did purely were online long distance research projects. So I've got a bit of a so I do a lot of research which isn't based at my own institution purely because I want to, and it's sort of, it broadens your horizons a bit to have a bit of a different global perspective. And the best thing about social media and the COVID pandemic, it made people realize that you could do research wherever you want. You don't have to, I mean, it's a bit hard if it's like bench work or whatever, you have to be in a specific place, but reviews, editors, letters to editors, commentaries, even case reports to a certain extent, if you've got, patient written consent and everything's all fine, then you can even do that. So a lot of it you can. It's about finding it though. So long distance research projects probably is going to be in the rounds of like reviews, editorials, commentaries, letters to the editors, those sort of things. The other thing which I was very blessed on was a lot of editing, a lot of editing opportunities. So some researchers and some doctors, like with formatting, have problems with formatting articles, and even if you help with that, that gets your name on it. So that's another idea. If you don't have much experience in research and don't know how to read a paper but can format and edit, that's another way of getting your name on stuff. So that's another idea. But yeah, it's very much, I mean, it's hard to do like original stuff where like audits and stuff, that's hard. to do this long distance, but start reading papers, start knowing how to do a review, learn how to do Prisma. That's number one, or a meta-analysis. People will be thankful. Is it hard to get into surgical specialists in the future if you don't have an AFP or SFP? Right, okay. This is a bit contentious. So for me, I knew I wanted to do an AFP when it was called the AFP years ago. So this is why I tailored my CV and my opportunities towards getting it. Because I always wanted Oxford as my AFP, always wanted it. So hence why I knew how they shortlisted, hence how I knew how to get shortlisted, basically. So it's not necessary for surgical specialists though. You don't have to do it. It's advantageous purely because you'll get like a research block or an academic day release where you have time to do research during the 2 years of foundation program. But it's not essential. It's not part of the shortlisting criteria for being a surgeon. But for me, I'm a bit biased because it will help you get those like first paper authorships. It'll help you get that presentation if you haven't got it already. So those sorts of things, definitely. And it helps with funding as well. Sorry, could you please elaborate a bit more on what you're doing? Right, okay. Basically, Facebook, I pretty much, if you go in like the search for like different groups saying, oh, like neurosurgery, psychiatry, whatever, there'll be loads and loads of different doctor groups, like loads of groups. And I literally then would be like, okay, scout through the group to make sure it's legitimate. And then I'd put like a public post saying, oh, I'm a student, blah, blah, blah. I want to do this, that, and the other. And then see if people get back to you. Most of the time they don't, but then some people did. So that's literally what I did. That is literally it. There's nothing too strenuous. How much does it cost to publish in journals with any kind? Right, okay. So yeah. So most journals are either open access or not. So open access means you have to pay, basically, to make it freely available. And you're talking thousands of pounds, which is ridiculous. Don't ask me about why it's so much. It's really heats my core. But a lot of journals are not open access either. So first of all, go for the journals which are not open access because you don't want to pay. Second, if your supervisor or your institution has an open access agreement with the journal in question, so like Springer Nature or the publishing company, then you can get it completely waived or the institution will pay for it. If with obviously if they allow it. So you could do it that way as well. A lot of low impact journals which are not popular are usually open access because they rely on money. And there's a lot of journals which are predatory. Do not, if it sounds dodgy and they're asking thousands of pounds or like subsidized or whatever, and they're emailing you out of the blue, do not respond because it's predatory. They're not real. They're just it's a con. Okay. If you don't have a supervisor, how do you publish on your own? Okay. So again, make sure that the journal's free. You don't want to be paying for it. Second is it's hard to do like things where you need ethical approval, where you need a supervisor, sort of original stuff. But a systematic review, you don't need any ethical approval, you don't need any funding, you don't need this, you don't need that. Just do it. If you know how to do it, know how to do a meta-analysis, go for it. There is no, I mean, a supervisor will help you steer you in the right direction. And maybe when you submit the article, their name might give a bit more weight in, but trust me, it's not essential. If you're going for low impact, if you just want to get your name on something and you want something published low impact, which is not like the BMJ or something, then it's fine. You can do it that way. And that's how I did it, to be honest. And letters, yes, whatever, you can just get published. You don't need to supervise it. Right. Oh, it's very kind of you. Right. So again, it's that balancing of passing medicine and doing research. So I'm quite lucky that like I do quite well academically. So I will sit myself down. If you don't know what past medicine is, do you all know what past medicine is?
Yeah, I use that as
Right.
well. We all
Cool.
use
Okay.
that to pass medicine.
Wonderful. Right. Okay. So I literally should be the salesman for PassMed because you can teach yourself medicine with a £25 subscription from PassMed and you don't even need to attend. Trust me, that's how I did it. And I've not listened to a lecture since like first year. I literally used PassMed and I'm top 10%. It's quite scary if you think about it. But I used to, so my personal studying, 200 PassMed in the morning, and then everything else do what you want. I do that every day. And I mean, in my third year, I was like top 5%. That is literally it. Some people would be like, no, Jack, that's sacrilegious. No, that's terrible. How are you learning medicine? Trust, if it's not clinical competencies where you don't need to cannulate someone or something, and you just need knowledge, past medicine is the best and easiest way to get it from rather than reading your textbooks. I have not read a textbook since second year.
I totally agree with that as well. That's what I did.
It's the way of doing it. And when you do your post, like I'm sitting the MRCS next September, part A. And again, instead of it called past medicine, it's called EMRCS. It's the same platform. It's literally the same thing. And you'll be doing that for the rest of your career. So if you know how to effectively use past med and can subsidize it with like guidelines, nice guidelines, etc., you'll be absolutely fine. Research, on the other hand, it's more time consuming, but it depends what project you're doing. If it's a letter to the editor and you know how to write one, you can bash it out in a couple of hours or like two hours. Very easy. If it's a review, then it may take a lot more time, but that's literally what I did. I did past meds in the morning, did my clinical placement, went home, worked on projects. And that was it. I was wondering how much it cost. Okay, I've already done a question. May I know if educational articles are counted as points or must it be clinical research? Good question. So for the points of AFP, SFP, it's the same thing, but it depends what post you're going for. So if you're going for research, med ed, or leadership, obviously the med ed article will look a bit better, but it's a points game. It really is PubMed ID, that's it. It's not like, oh, I have to be publishing this. For postgraduate qualifications such as like PG Cert in med ed or something like that, yeah, it should be med ed focused. Or if it's research, it should be research focused. If it's a PhD in a certain area, yeah, it's got to be more tailored to that. So for the point of like clinical fellowships and stuff like that, it's not, the points are pretty much the same. But if you're going for a more research intensive where they actually read the publications you put on the application, then that's a different ball game because they will know. And be very careful later on in your career if you have brothers or sisters who've put their name or your name on the articles, because some of the supervisors and people interviewing you will actually read those publications and know what you've done. So be very careful. Okay, that's my word of advice if anybody else has got a medical family. Right. So yeah, at the moment it's fine. And to be honest, med ed is oversaturated because of COVID. Everyone jumped on the med ed bandwagon and started publishing this, that, and the other, which, to be honest, I'm 50-50 about it because a lot of the research they have published is actually not contributed to the literature whatsoever. It's just reiterated it, which is not the point. You want to add to the literature, not reiterate. So that's my personal opinion. Okay, I am a medical student. How would you suggest to start? Any skills and knowledge that I should equip myself? Right. So number one, if you don't have any research experience, try and find someone like me or a peer who has got research experience and buddy it with them. That's number one, because that will make your life a hell of a lot easier. Number two, know how to read a paper. Know how to do something called a PICO model, just how to actually critically appraise a paper. So like population, intervention, comparator, outcome, just to get into the swing of like what you're looking for in, say, a trial or something, just to get your head around it. Know some basic statistics. I mean, I'm a hypocrite because stats is something I hate. I had to do as part of my master's, but I absolutely hate it. And most research projects will send their stats to a medical statistician who does it on the side and gets their name on the paper. That is the majority of people. So if you don't know how to do stats, it's not essential, but just learn a tiny bit, know how to do like a student t-test, something like that. And know how to do a systematic review, know how to use Prisma. It's very, very useful. So just, you can go on Prisma and, look at it. It'll take me time to explain it, but just have a look at that. And the other thing is know how to do ethical approval. It will be really vital for, where projects may be using human data, etc. You need to pass it through ethical approval, and that application is quite lengthy. So know how to do that. Oh, and how to also take consent from a patient. I know it sounds like a doctor role, but you're going to be doing that daily. But to do like case reports, you need written patient consent. Know how to explain how you're going to use their case as like a presentation. It's a way of saying it. So know how to do that. Global research on Facebook. Could you elaborate on how that works? Is there? Okay, so yeah, as I said with Facebook, literally I message people on Facebook, part of groups, whatever. If they come back to me messaging and going, oh, like, do you want to like talk over Zoom or like a WhatsApp or something, then do it through that. Try not to give out your personal details though. If you can do it for like LinkedIn, which is why I use LinkedIn a lot, or something like that, because you cannot trust anyone. So just always be careful. Would it be hard for us to get accepted into this project if we never experienced it? Right. So a lot of you don't need experience to get onto a lot of these projects, to be honest. Most schemes actually now rather teach you how to do research alongside getting something published. Just be careful, there are schemes out there which you have to pay quite a lot of money to even do. Don't do them. You don't need to pay for anything. It's a scam. But if you don't have any research experience, again, go to your peers who have got research experience, ask them, if you got any projects I could learn from you, etc. The best way of doing it. Don't pay for anything. Are there any resources you can recommend to start reading? Right, okay. To be honest, there is some good things on Star Search, which is like a searchable thing, where it has some e-modules, like learning how to read papers, learning how to do different stats. But for me, it was very much get on the Lancet, read through the papers, start having a feel for it. If you really don't understand it, move on to a different paper. You're not supposed to, you're not a professor. You're not a specialist. Just literally look at what's being researched and what's being published a lot, and then think, well, that hasn't been done. There's a gap there. Maybe I can say something, or like a simple letter to the editor, and that will get you, that might get you into something. Or if you're really struggling, look at low impact journals. Start with med ed journals. They're quite a lot easier to read, and they're quite self-explanatory. And a lot of people I know who have published letters to the editors have done it in medical education journals because it's easier to do. So that may be a good start. Look at medical education journals, low impact ones like Med Teacher or something, and then look, oh, that hasn't been done. That hasn't been done. Maybe I can write on something. That's how I would start. To be honest, because I've published quite a bit, I don't really do letters to editors anymore, but I do a lot of commentary stuff and more like stuff which is going to benefit me in the future, so like case reports and those sort of things, because they're better evidence stuff. So yeah, just start reading med ed journals, I'd say. How many would you say is the bare minimum publication needs to land in AFP? Right, okay, this is topical for me. The AFP. So it depends on the deanery you're applying for. So what I know for a fact is the big three, London, Cambridge, Oxford. If you do not have any publications, avoid like the plague. You're not going to get it, because the amount of people who apply for those, they're the big heavy hitters. Like Oxford, purely shortlist on, well, they've changed a bit this year, but they purely shortlist on presentations, prizes, and publications, and additional degrees. If you do not have at least one publication, there's no point in applying, because there's only what, 24 to 30 posts, 30 posts for Oxford. So how are you expected, unless they have a really awful like competition year, how are you going to get it? Because that's me being really, really blunt. And I don't want to lie to you and be like, yeah, go for it, get your hopes up, because that's not the world. So so yeah, I know for a fact there are certain deaneries which are less competitive, less desirable, which I think is ridiculous. You get, if you do an AFP, you do an AFP anyway, it's fine. But there are more lenient ones. So Scotland is a lot more lenient when it comes to certain publications and presentations, etc. And then like I know quite a few people are going for Northwest, so Manchester area, maybe avoid. A lot of people are going from Manchester. Wales, where I'm from, Wales is not that competitive for AFB actually. But well, it's getting more competitive, but it's not as competitive. But I'd say minimum is it's a hard number to get. But if you're going for Oxford, Cambridge, or London, okay, I'm gonna say Oxford because that's the one I'm going for. I'd say at least 2 or 3 would land you okay. It's yeah, it's hard. It's hard one to say, but there's no set minimum, but you need to read through the deaneries to see where it is. But you'd be okay if you've got about 2 or 3 publications. Is it necessary to know what specialty you want to pursue in the future? Okay, I'll answer that first. No, no. Everyone changes their mind. So I wouldn't worry about it unless you're thinking surgery. So if you're thinking surgery and it's like, oh, I may fancy it in the future, it'd be worthwhile doing a lot of your publication, presentation work, whatever, during medical school, because it helps you. It saves you time in the future, because you don't want to be scrambling around when you're a busy junior doctor, because yeah, you're going to hate life. Okay, so cardiothoracics, right? I know a couple of people go for cardiothoracics. Cardiothoracics is a weird one because a lot of the time now, a lot of interventional cardiology actually does a lot of jobs for cardiothoracics nowadays. So it's becoming less and less competitive purely because interventional measures and procedures are being done, but it's still very competitive because there's not as many posts anymore. But yeah, cardiothoracics is very competitive actually. Just saying, you'd need to really bump up your publication and presentation game. Research. Okay, so specialty you're interested in to do research. So research and specialty you're interested in. At this stage, at your stage, no. The research can be in pretty much anything. It's good to because you have to play a points game. To get these posts, you need to play the points game. So they don't look at the specific research, whatever you've done. They just look if you've got a PubMed ID. So not at this point, but later on, it will have to be related, yeah. Do you have any research opportunities available for us? Ooh, that's a good question. At the moment, I'm busy applying for foundation posts, so my research stuff has been on the back burner. But if there is, I will let you all know if there is. How learn how to do ethical review meta-analysis. Right, meta-analysis, again, stats is not my best suit. So I literally learned there's a module you can like, just literally, you can even go on YouTube and it'll say how to do a meta-analysis. It's not, it doesn't have to be next level, like I need to know this, I need to know that. You just need to know the basics. But there is a paper which was published in I think BMC Infected Tropical Diseases, where it tells you how to do a systematic review with an example. That is a good one. That is a good one to do. If I can find it, I'll put it on the chat. Okay, I'm not a doctor yet, so hopefully, like, hopefully next year I'll be a doctor. Okay, if we collected data on our own, right. Okay, so because of the COVID pandemic, a lot of people have been doing questionnaire stuff, pre-post questionnaires or surveys. For my university, you need ethical approval because you're technically using, unless it's anonymized, but even then, you're technically using data. So it's a contentious one because I know a lot of people who've done pre and post questionnaires and presented at conferences. That's absolutely fine. But yeah, I would say if you're doing a big study like question, if you're doing a little thing like this, like webinar series, what people have thought before, what people have thought before, after, sorry, I don't think that's a problem, to be honest. Lots of people have just presented that, it's fine. If it's you want to get published and you want to like in a good enough med ed journal, they will ask. They will ask for some form of ethical approval or something, or if it's been waived by an institution. So just to be safe, I would put an ethical approval form in. It'll probably be like, say you don't need ethical approval, etc. But I would, because you don't want to get on the bad side of not using ethical approval, because you can, that's a big concern. Like that can be GMC concern. Just saying. Is it possible if you can get a copy of PowerPoint? Of course you can. You can have a, I'll give the PowerPoint afterwards. You can get it. This might be a dumb question for me. Right, PubMed cited research. Basically, if the article has got a specific PubMed ID number and it's been deposited on PubMed. In other words, if you put your name into PubMed and you can see the article, that's PubMed cited. If it's not on there, and sometimes it takes a while for published journals to get your name, to get it on PubMed, then for example, search like the AFP, they won't count it. So just be careful. Everyone wants to be part of it. Right, I'm a co-author in a review paper related to neurology, but I really want to be part of a surgical research. Okay, right, surgical research. It's quite hard. It's about who you know, unfortunately. I would start with people at your institutional hospital you're working with. Ask if they've got anything going on. If they don't, fine, move on. Try the Facebook or LinkedIn approach, which I did. But it is difficult. Surgery, a lot of surgeons keep research themselves and they give it to their trainees because they need it because of applications. So you have to fight for it, definitely. I know for a fact the easiest research I've done, MedEd, number one. Like, I mean, this is why loads of people do it though, so don't oversaturate it for the sake of it. And then I think, what else was quite okay? You've got to think of your topical issues. So psychiatry, there's a lot of stuff which is lacking in psychiatry. So that's another good one to get into. But don't worry if it's not surgical yet. Okay, yeah. I will let you know if I have anything I can put, like I can help you with, because I really don't mind. If you put the work in, fine. I've got no problem. If you don't, I'm not going to give you nothing. I'm not going to give you something for nothing. But yeah, it's fine. Okay, I think that's all the questions I've had so far. Is there any other questions? You can speak up. I really don't mind because I'm talking to a screen at the moment.
That's really helpful. Thank you so much. I don't have any questions as well. So if there's any questions, just please feel free to email Jack, and also fill in the feedback form to get a copy of the slides. Jack will send me later and I'll send it to you guys. And if Jack is happy for the recording to be sent as well.
It's absolutely fine.
Okay, and we might also post this on YouTube, a YouTube channel, or the Meta YouTube channel, so you can find it there as well. And yeah, so if you have any further questions, just email me or Jack, and we'll be more than happy to help. So we've been here for 1 hour, 12 minutes. Thank you so much, Jack.
That's no worries. Sorry I went over time.
No, it's really helpful for us. It's the first time we get exposed to what research is like, and also the career of an early career researcher, but a really experienced in it. Thank you so much.
No, it's my pleasure.
I'll just take a picture. Wait, give me a second.
Okay.
Does anyone wants to does anyone wants to open the camera? No, it's fine. I'll just take a picture. 3, 2, smile. Okay, great. Thank you so much.
No worries.